Good afternoon, JMU sports fans. Welcome to yet another edition of the Breeze TV Sports Desk. And the man to my left, this is a man that if you're tailgating in Bridgeport Stadium any given Saturday where there is Dukes football in the fall, this is the guy that you're going to be hearing over the radio. This is Mr. Dave Thomas, ladies and gentlemen. And Dave, once again, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for asking. Anytime you guys need anything, I'd be happy to help.
I know you have worked pretty close with Colby as of late, so it's good to finally have you in the studio for once. So hopefully we get you in a little bit more. But I know that, despite the broadcasting and everything, I know that at heart you're a big sports fan, just like myself, especially with the Dukes, and that goes without saying. But one thing that I know we never really touched on was back in August. It's kind of become a sick tradition on the show. I guess I kind of have to start with this question. But back in August, when the news did come out that football, the news came first, and there would be no fall football. I know there was a pretty dark cloud hanging over the town for a little bit. There still maybe is for diehard fans. But what was that reaction when you initially found out that the football season was going to be postponed to then an undisclosed date?
Well, obviously we had an idea that it was possible. And you try to start preparing yourself for that so you're ready. But you're never really ready until you know, because you're still working on contingency plans. And, we had been discussing things about, hey, here's what we want to do. And honestly, I spent a lot of time over the summer spent time listening to other broadcasts, things we wanted to do. I got access to a ton of colleges around the country, bigger, smaller, on the same level as JMU. So I spent a lot of time listening and had a lot of ideas. So I was very excited to implement those ideas. Then it's like, oh, okay. So it's somewhat of a letdown, but again, we had an idea that it was coming. Obviously, health and safety's got to be first, and we understood that, and obviously for our own sakes, our own families, that's important. So it was one of those things where you took a little time to sort of pout and sulk, and then okay, we need to start getting ready to implement whenever we do get ready. And I credit the folks that I work with at JMU and at Learfield IMG College and at Harrisonburg Radio Group. Sort of collectively, we all had this same morning period, and they were like, okay, we need to start being ready whenever we can play. And that sort of helped reinvigorate me a little bit to, okay, let's shift our focus to whatever time we're going to play. Let's make sure we're ready to go when that time comes.
Yeah, I think you said it absolutely correct about how safety is the number one priority. I mean, we've seen, even as of late with the NFL, what happens when there's professional athletes who don't necessarily take the pandemic as seriously as maybe they should. And I think absolutely the safety is top priority still. But that was the first announcement. As of last week, there was a different announcement exactly a week ago. We're shooting on a Wednesday. I know this will premiere on a Friday. But the news that spring football is going to be a thing in Harrisonburg with the Dukes for the first time ever. I don't think this has ever been done for the FCS, but kind of going the route of what the XFL was going to do last season. What was the reaction when the news came out? And I know you said you were preparing for when play was coming back. Well, the news came out, play is back. What was that reaction when the CAA dropped its plans for the spring? And do you think it could work?
It felt great. It felt great to know. As I've said on the local sports show that I host, the daily sports feed on ESPN Radio Harrisonburg, I've said a number of times to my listeners, when we get a schedule, it becomes real. It's not tangible, but it feels that way. It feels like something you can wrap your arms around. And so there was that excitement of, okay, here's what it's going to be. We don't know where we're going to be. We don't know what the game times are, but we know the structure. And so that helped move it along a little bit further down the road and help, okay, the talks and the conversations and the planning and the preparation that we've been doing that made all that seem, okay, now we're where we need to be. It made it real. And that was exciting because, we still have basketball in between and, looking at the bigger picture, something I've been doing a lot of going, okay, typically it's football and then the crossover season with basketball. It's going to be in reverse this time. So how's that going to work? And again, we still don't have a basketball schedule as of the time you and I are chatting. So we don't know what that's going to look like either. So there's still a lot of unknowns, but knowing that it's coming, knowing that it's here, it's kind of like Christmas. When you make that turn, into fall, okay, Christmas is here. It's only a few months away. It was exciting. Can it work is the question. And I'll defer to Coach Curt Cignetti when he said recently in a press conference that if you manage your athletes right, you manage your practices right, you manage your preparation right, then it can work. I mean, from the very get-go, even when the ACC and the ACC were saying they could play, they were saying, we're not saying it's going to be easy. We're not saying it's going to be normal. We're just saying it can be done. And I think that's what it's different. Listen, coaches, players, broadcasters, we're all creatures of habit. Having to conform to something new is a little different. But Coach Cignetti's got the right mindset. When he found out he couldn't play in the fall, he immediately turned his attention and began to prepare for the spring. And I think everyone else needs to follow that lead. So can it work? I think it can. Obviously, we've got to get there. Hopefully, we're going to be in a better place in the world where testing is not going to be that big of a deal and social distancing is not going to be as a big of a concern by the time we get into late February and March. I'm hoping things are better, but at least we know what we can do if it's not. And I think we're finding ways to make it work.
Yeah, you know what? Let's pray for the days where the testing and everything just kind of becomes a secondhand notion. I think we're all really hoping for those days to come again quite soon. And you mentioned Curt Cignetti. The last couple of times that you may have spoken to him, were there any other couple of just words of advice that he was giving his players, or just ways that he was approaching this upcoming spring semester in particular that the fans should know about?
Well, to be ready, to take, to do the things that you have to do. And that's not just, preparation and training, that's academically. There's an old saying that says the best ability is availability. And so you need to make sure that you're eligible to be on the football field academically first. So he's really put a lot of emphasis on guys taking care of their classes, doing what you need to do. Take care of your bodies, continue your workouts, do the things that you would normally do. And I think a lot of these guys get it by now. They understand that this is not something you do from September to January and then you turn it off until September rolls around again. You have what they go through in the process of training with camp and in games. You got to work toward, almost all year round. So you got to stay in that mindset pretty much all the time. So he's got them thinking about that. With his staff, they're looking at, they've told me they went back and looked at things and rewatched games from last year. How can we be better? How can we maybe get more out of a kid? Is there something we're missing that we didn't see initially? So they're really using the time to reevaluate and look at everything from a different perspective. A couple of the new coaches on staff, on the assistant coaching staff, so they're going to bring some energy. They can't wait to get out in front of Bridgeport Stadium and the crowd and be there for the fun. And we have to wait until spring, as we've said about that. But they're bringing in some ideas of their own. So they're reevaluating everything, looking at what can we do to be better? How can we be better? Last year was last year. That doesn't mean you're going to walk in and automatically be at that same level. Understanding you're starting over again, having your guys ready mentally, having them ready physically, having your staff ready with a good plan. That's sort of how they're treating this time.
Yeah, and especially I know you mentioned new coaches. One thing that did stay consistent over this entire time period was that signings were still happening. So you've got new coaches, you have new players coming in as well. Is there a brand new transfer student or a freshman signee who you personally have seen some tape on or know about a little bit that the fans should really start to become excited for?
Well, this team picked up a couple of FBS transfers. And so I'm excited about, a young man from Minnesota coming in to play defense, a young man from UMass coming in. A tight end from North Carolina. You're bringing in and filling in some slots there with guys that have played Power 5 football. So that's exciting. And again, that's a testament to where this program is and the attraction that it is overall. But, there's an old coaches will say, you don't know till you get them here. And when I've talked with Coach Cignetti about the workouts that the guys have gone through that he's seen already, and a lot of that's mainly strength and conditioning, but what he's seeing out of them, what he's been able to see with them, he's excited about where they are, both physically and mentally. A lot of what's been going through, and some of it's been talked about, but the mental side for student athletes, having to, are we going to play? Are we not going to play? We saw what happened with the Big Ten and how not only the players, but their families rallied around and said, listen, we want to play. Other guys are doing it. Why can't we do it too? Obviously, the guys here knew it was an FCS issue. And, there was no way to make it work and obtain chasing a championship. but they had to deal with the mental side of that too. And that's sometimes tougher than any physical element that you have, making sure they're ready mentally. And coaches are very excited about how sharp they've been and how well they've acclimated themselves to, okay, this is just the new normal for now, knowing that it's not going to be this way forever, hanging their hat on the day that it's going to roll back around and you're going to get back into doing something that you want to do when you want to do it. Plus, a lot of these guys got an extra year of eligibility. And so that's exciting in its own right. They just want to get on the football field and play. Coach told me the last time I talked with him, I was excited how excited they were just to be back doing a football function.
Yeah, one thing, you bring up the mental aspect of sports and academics and in some cases college life in general, but especially with college athletes. One thing that I personally remember is from my Navy days is I remember talking to some SEALs and talking to a buddy of mine who was training to be a SEAL until an injury unfortunately sidelined him, so to speak, sports term, and then brought him down to our division. But it's amazing how much the mental aspect of something can be the deal breaker. And just the thing that really at the end of the season, or in this case, at the end of a training regimen, you get that rank of #1 team in the country. You get that rank of U.S. Navy SEAL. It really just goes to show how important a mental state is when preparing oneself physically, but then also mentally again for this kind of work. But, for some people, they knew that spring ball was coming. They were keeping themselves busy until the spring ball was coming. But, there were a couple of players who just, the wait was too long. I know that personally, I think D'Angelo Amos, him going to UVA, I remember hearing that and, just feeling just maybe some wind come out of the sail
Sure.
a little bit. It was inevitable, I feel, that a couple of guys, great players, were going to find different roster spots on different SCS or, in this case, FBS teams. Is there one player departure in particular that stuck with you or that you found significant?
Well, the two that landed at UVA, Adib Atariwa, he and Mike Green were a tag team tandem on the defensive line. So you're losing part of that tag team. You're losing the right arm or the left arm, if you want to look at it. And Adib, and if you notice, if you watch UVA games, and I talked with folks around that program, well, listen, Adib Atariwa is not your normal defensive lineman. He's not going to interfere with a play, redirect it, and then stop and rest. He's going to chase that play down. And I was watching them play Clemson the other night. 12 yards down the field, there comes number 95 right at the tail end of the plate, trying to get in on it. And so you not everybody has that. He had a mentality, soft-spoken, extremely smart, and extremely strong. So replacing those things is difficult. And with D'Angelo, he was an older player, and he has aspirations to be at the next level, and he has the talent to back those aspirations up. We've seen that already with an interception at UVA, and if they ever give him a chance to return a punt, he may be able to show a little bit more of what he has on display. So what those two guys brought were experience. They brought leadership, and that's hard to replace. Now, the good thing about it with this team, and the way I've seen really the baton change from Coach Houston's staff to Coach Cignetti's staff, is the expectation of leadership and character did not change. Actually, it may be a little higher if that's possible. So these guys sort of understand, okay, what we lost was two guys who are chasing their dream. We love them. They're our brothers, and we're going to continue to support them. And I think we've seen that through social media and how these players have responded around them. But now somebody's got to step up and be that. Somebody's got to fill that gap. And to me, that's one of the things I'm most excited about this year is knowing that there are guys that I've seen on the practice field that fans don't know their names yet, that they may not have shown up in a scorebook or they may not have made the play that people are talking about, but there are guys who know what to do. They're just waiting for the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you bring up that D'Angelo, he is an older player. He is chasing that higher level going pro, and absolutely I think he has all the attributes to get there. One player in particular that did go pro was Ben DiNucci. He gets a 7th round draft pick, and he's off in Jerry World. He's a Dallas Cowboy, and that brings in interesting questions about what's going to be happening with the JMU Dukes quarterback position now that Ben has gone pro. What do you see coming in for the most important position on the field? What does the JMU quarterback situation look like right now?
Well, I see two guys who've been in this program for a while. Cole's been here. Gage had some injuries last year that he had to battle through. But these are guys that I know both Coach Houston's staff are very high on. And in talking with Coach Cignetti and talking with Shea Montgomery, Coach Shea Montgomery, the offensive coordinator, he has really good things to say about those guys also. So it wasn't like, okay, what are we going to do now? It wasn't back to the old drawing board. It's okay, guys, let's reload. And each of these guys are a little different. They were all a little different from Ben. You know, Ben was a smart player who came off of a junior year that he admitted, listen, I didn't handle some things right. And he fell on his sword. What Ben showed was leadership and composure and unselfishness. He didn't put himself before the team. He made sure that he fit into the team. And I think we're going to see that very same thing carry on, no matter whether it's Cole or whether it's Gage or whether it's somebody else. These are the two guys I think are lead horses out of the gate because they got the experience. You know, they worked with Coach Cignetti. They worked with Coach Montgomery. So they're familiar with the terminology. They're a year deeper into this. And again, both of these guys bring things to the table that maybe you haven't seen yet. Sometimes I forget that fans haven't seen what I've seen in practice. And I've seen a lot of things out of both of these guys. Cole is deceivingly good as a runner. You think he's not going to run. He's 6'5". He's going to have a longer gait. He's going to be harder to bring down. You know, Gage was Mr. Football to South Carolina, and he's a left-hander. And so there's things about what he does, plus he's smart, and he can move with the football. So I think, you know, listen, a run game is there. It's a deep running back room. That's going to support this quarterback. You got wide receivers that people don't know about that I've seen make a lot of plays. Plus you get a transfer like Scott Bracey in from Duke, who's 6'2", who's got good speed, playing at a Power 5 level. He's going to make some plays for this football team. So I think what they've done is surround these, no matter who's the quarterback. Jordan, if it was you or I quarterbacking, we would feel more comfortable by what they put around them. All these guys have to do is go out there and play football. Just run the offense. And some folks may say, well, that's being a game manager. That's not really being a quarterback. Hey, listen, if you can move the team up and down the field, you can put points on the board. I don't care how you do it. And I think if JMU is winning football games, whether they're passing, running, or a combination of both, fans are not going to care. You know, take care of the ball, make good decisions, and go have some fun. I think you're going to see two guys, and it's going to be an interesting competition, two guys who wanted their opportunity, and they both do, having a chance to really get in there and get it this time.
You know, when you say it that way, it kind of reminds me of that Bill Belichick and kind of Patriot way of, you know what, just do your job.
Right,
and like,
right.
It doesn't matter if you're Tom Brady or if you're Cam Newton. If you can go down the field, manage an offense, and get points on the board, you do your job, you're going to win football games. I think that that's the most important thing, that definitely, regardless of whether it is Cole or Gage, as you're saying, whoever can do their job, I'm more than excited to see them represent this team as the starting quarterback, definitely going into the spring. And with that being said, I know that you have seen things on the practice field that, you know, guys like me and other fans, you know, we have not seen this yet. From what you have seen so far, I know that, again, a lot of what you have seen may have been strength and conditioning, those individual workouts, but where are your predictions right now for this football team heading into 2021 for the spring?
Well, I'll put it to you like one of the assistant coaches told me. The expectation is to be back where you were last year. The expectation of the football team is to compete for a national championship. You know, and the outside expectations will never be bigger than the in the locker room expectations. These guys know it's not going to be given to them. They know it's going to be tough, you know, especially when you're playing in the spring, a shortened season, coming off of a year where you had to move spring ball to the fall, didn't get spring ball at all. You know, you've had, you know, starting school, stopping school, online school. What are we doing? There's a lot of things that they're having to adjust to. So they know they're going to have to earn it. But I think the expectation is if this team can stay healthy, that's going to be your biggest key for any team's success. If you can stay healthy, they've got the tools to be right back where they want to be, chasing a national championship. That's why it was so important in the beginning when the league said, we're not going to play, but if you want to, you can. And when the championship was still out there, JMU, and it starts with athletics director Jeff Bourne, understanding what you're bringing back, what you have is the ability to chase that championship. That's the promise that JMU made to these student athletes when they agreed to come to JMU. They tried to fulfill that in the fall, and they couldn't. Now they're going to fulfill it in the spring. The expectation is for this team to be very good, to take care of the football, to run the ball well, and to pass effectively, whether they choose to pass 3 times a game or 30 times a game, do it effectively. And then defensively, I have no reason to think that they're going to drop off. We saw guys step up and improve and mature last year. And that's a credit to this staff for connecting with these kids right out of the gate. Right out of the gate when they got into spring ball and then in the fall. And there was so much growth between spring and fall for some of these guys. And by the end of the year, we saw playing more snaps. And fans may not have recognized it, but there was a particular play. Kelvin Azanama is the guy that comes to mind. As a linebacker, he had to roll out in coverage, and he realized the offense switched and had a faster guy on him. He recognized that, called for the defensive switch, and they shut the play down just because he recognized that on the opposite side of the field for the JMU sideline. You're going to see that kind of thing a lot more this year. I'm excited about this football team. I'm excited about the guys that haven't had the opportunity or taken the opportunity by the horns yet to go out there and make some plays. I think you got some very hungry guys who now have had to wait even longer, coming off the fact that they were the national runner-up. They were just a little bit short of a national championship. And don't think they're not thinking about that, because they still are.
Yeah, it's crazy actually you bring that up, that it's almost – or by the time that the season will start, it will have been a little over a full calendar year since the last played football game for this football team. So I can only imagine how hungry these guys are. Well, Dave, are there any final words that you have for the fans at home, Duke fans, and just anything else you want to say that you know about this team heading into the new season that I think we can all say we're just glad is actually going to happen?
Well, it's exciting. They had a change late, and changes late sometimes can be a little scary especially when you change your strength and conditioning coach. But they had a change there, and Coach Cignetti told me recently he's super impressed with what he's seen. And it's a little different, but you know what? Maybe that's a good thing. Not that the old way or what they were doing before was wrong, but now you got a different voice, a different cadence, a little different task to do. All of a sudden, you're paying it a little closer attention. Plus, again, like I said before, these guys have been deprived by COVID, not deprived by people, but deprived by COVID, the opportunity to play the sport they love and do what they came to JMU to do, being the athlete part of being a student athlete. So I'll tell you, I'm really excited about the team. The more I get to know this coaching staff, I've done a series of interviews with each member of the coaching staff, not talking football per se, talking about them as people. How did they get into coaching? How did they land in Harrisonburg? Tell us about your family. And the more I see this coaching staff, it is a cohesive, collective, functioning unit. And all these guys have input. They all talk. And it's almost as if when Coach Cignetti talks, you're hearing the same thing out of them. Not because they're clones or because it's, they're afraid to say something different. It's because that's who they are and because it works. So I'm excited about the staff they've got together. I'm excited about this team. I can't wait to get there. I'm ready to get this thing started. I know they're ready as well. Again, just taking care of themselves, staying healthy, being available. That to me, if you could do those things until we get into January where workout starts, and then February 20th, hopefully a first game kicking off at Briggs Ford Stadium, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm hoping that we can have capacity crowds there again, because everybody wants to return to JMU football into normal life. And what better way to come out and sort of exercise those demons, so to speak, than to cheer loudly, to be there, watching this team do what they do at home and the place they love to play the most.
Yeah, I don't see anything better than heading over to Bridgeport, having a Bojo sandwich in your hand, cheering for that team, and just letting them know, how much you love them. I think we all know this football team is just such an integral part of the heart of this town. And the sooner that we have it back, it's just going to feel that much more normal around here. And we're all excited for it. Well, Dave, thank you so much for being on the show. It was great to talk with you again. Hope all is well. Please stay safe. Keep doing what you do. And we end up with the Go Dukes.
Absolutely. Go Dukes.
Go Dukes fans. We'll see you around next time. Thanks for joining us on the Sports Desk. For Dave, my name is Jordan Simal. We'll see you all next time. Take care, and please stay safe. Have a good night.